Hello everybody and welcome back to Random Vids. Oh boy, oh goody. It is time that we revisit one of the most strangest shows that I've ever seen, and that is of course Pup Star. So, quick history lesson. Pup Star has a series of 4 different movies made by Airbud Entertainment. I ended up watching them back in 2021 for the very first time ever, and loved and hated them. So, back in 2021, I made a video talking about I talked about ranking all 4 of the Pup Star movies. However, that video is a little bit outdated. It's, 5 years old now. And I haven't seen the movies in 5 years. What do I think about Pup Star in 2026 opposed to 2021? Definitely a big difference, I'd say, but yeah, it's different for sure. So, anyway, we have 4 different Pup Star movies to tackle. The first one was obviously the very first one that came out back in 2016, 10 years ago. The second one was made in 2017, and then the third and fourth ones were both made in 2018. Very, very interesting. So before we begin, I'm just going to come right out and say that all of my original placements, for the movies have all remained exactly the same. So expect Pup Star 4 to be talked about first, and the very last one to be Pup Star 1. So I'm not going to hold us back anymore. Let's rank all the... okay, I should say it like this. Let's re-rank all of the Pup Star movies from worst to best. Let's get started with the easy worst of the bunch. Number 4 is Puppy Star Christmas. So this is the very last movie of the series. So surprise, surprise, even after rewatching all 4 movies, this is still the weakest of the 3. But let's get into the story of this movie, per se, because I don't think I did that the last time I did these. I was just kind of mad at the movies and decided to rant about them instead. So this movie stars... Well, I should say, it immediately starts off with PUP and Tiny getting married. They end up having 4 puppies, 3 girls, 1 boy, and I hopefully will say these names now before I forget. Cindy, Rosie, Charlie, and Brody. Alright. They are going to put on a Christmas special down in Pup Star, and the puppies are going to be involved. Meanwhile, our villains, who have remained exactly the same throughout the 4 movies, Bark, Cano, and of course Roland, who is the human of the bunch. And in this movie in particular, we also have Julio, who was kind of the villain of the 3rd movie as well. So he joins our villains on our adventure as well. This time around, they are going to the North Pole to try to capitalize on money. Okay. Very interesting difference between this movie compared to the very first movie in the way that the villains were. So anyway, part of the puppy event, the Christmas event that they're putting on at the Pup Star thing, is they want to have Santa Claus involved. However, when the villains show up at the North Pole, they capture and kidnap Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus. So Roland ends up dressing up as Santa Claus, and he ends up inviting himself over to the show, the Puppy Star Christmas show, whatever, the Christmas show. I'm just going to call it the Christmas show. Everyone is kind of shocked by the way that Roland is acting because they think it's Santa, but Roland's adding all these random, things that everyone's just like, what? This is how Christmas is going to be nowadays? Okay, so the puppies end up sneaking off onto Roland's sleigh. Also, Cano's there just because why the heck not? I'm sure. They end up flying back to Santa's workshop, where the puppies are now in Santa's shop. I feel like I've seen this movie before, like twice already, but okay. Anyway, once at the workshop, the pups realize how dull and sad it is compared to what they originally thought, what a happy North Pole was going to look like. So eventually they end up getting caught by Roland, and he takes them to jail along with Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus. Eventually, Steven, Ida, Shep, and Lou, along with Tiny and PUP, realize that the pups are missing. So, um, Lou, Shep, and Ida search around for clues and find out that the pups are potentially at the North Pole. So they end up taking themselves, in a pretty hilarious way, over to the North Pole. And of course, they end up meeting up with head elf Eli, who we've seen before in three other Christmas movies, in the Santa Buddies as well as both of the Santa Paws movies. It's kind of interesting how they bring him back as a character, but I'm not complaining. So Eli tells them about what's going on, and they all now have to try to find a way to stop Bark. So they end up coming up with a plan to attack, I guess, whoever's keeping guard of Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus. And however, something that they didn't realize in that time is with Cano and Bark in the workshop gathering the money, Roland and Julio are inside of their little cottage, Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus cottage, keeping guard. However, Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus got to them a bit. Roland and Julio reminisce on the past on when they stopped believing in Christmas. So all of a sudden, now they turned a new leaf and they're both on the good side. So of course they let everyone out of jail and they put Bark and Cano in jail instead. And they all go back to, well, I should say not all of them. Lou takes the puppies back to wherever they're hosting the Puppy Star Christmas, the Christmas show. That's right, I gotta remember I'm calling it that. And Shep and Ida stay back because there isn't enough room on the sleigh, as well as Roland and Julio. So they reunite the puppies with Tiny and PUP, and all's well that ends well. And we get to see a little special scene at the end with Roland and Julio teaching a bunch of kids at a potential orphanage about how to drive a train. I also love the bit at the end where he says, I was Santa Claus for a few hours," something like that. So it's a great finale to the villains. And of course we get to see Shep and Ida get married at the end of the movie too, which I always loved, because these two were really hilarious characters, especially in this movie. And that's the thing, the villains and the humans in this movie were really fun to watch. They were hilarious to watch, and these are characters that we've seen for 4 movies now. It's like the good guys in general, the humans. Shep and Ida were funny and hilarious together in this movie, and there's so many parts that I completely forgot about in the 5 years that I've last seen this movie. Like, I forgot the whole train scene where Shep, Ida, and Lou are making their way to the North Pole. Yeah, I may not like this movie, but there is little funny things in here that aren't half bad and that are kind of funny. Steven, of course, is great, as always. Lou, it's great seeing her go along, of course. Like I said, Eli being the head elf is great, too. And the villains, I wasn't ever really the biggest fan of the villains in these movies. They were just your stereotypic bad guys, with Roland being a less funnier villain from the other Air Bud Entertainment shows that would come out afterwards. No offense to Roland, but I do think he definitely has the best in this movie, him trying to be Santa Claus. And his goofiness isn't really as much cringe as the other movies either, and it is kind of funny. Plus I love seeing him and Julio together. I think they work great for being kind of the dim-witted ones of the group, and that's another thing. I liked Julio a lot in this movie too. I didn't really know and remember how much I really hated or liked this character. That's why I wanted to rewatch these movies, because, I didn't know. But I will say I really liked Julio in this movie, just because he was fun to watch. He's a character for sure. Bark and Cano, of course, are still your stereotypic bad guys, but they weren't quite as bad in this movie as the other one. Or they were more fun in this movie, I should say. But that's basically where all the pluses are. Everything else about the movie is just a big, fat minus. I will also say, like I said, I do like the fact that Shep and Ida got married at the end of the movie. And at the very beginning of the movie, when Tiny tossed her bouquet of flowers back, Shep and Ida were fighting over it, and they both basically had a piece of it. Ain't that funny and ironic? But I think it's great. I love the way that they did that. Now, everything else about the movie. For starters, I really don't like how PUP and Tiny got married, because it doesn't make any sense, for one, and number two, I don't like PUP, as you know. The big thing for me is the fact that Tiny was a puppy in the first three movies. However, when it came to this movie, she was an adult, of course. But what doesn't make sense is the first time she met PUP back in Pupstar Better Together, she was a puppy, pretty young yet at the time, too. Not quite as young as the first movie, but still, pretty young. And PUP is this much older dog who, for some reason started gaining feelings towards Tiny, and same with Tiny even, too. And the third movie, that was pretty irrelevant, as we saw. And then in this movie, they get married. I mean, I guess if you think about it, in a real dog's world, it doesn't really age doesn't matter for these dogs. But when you think about it, it just seems kind of weird, because Tiny is pretty young, and I guess she's all of a sudden an adult in this movie. But PUP is like way older, so that just seems kind of funny. But I guess they had to. I guess if they wanted them to get married, they had to change Tiny to an adult. Plus, her voice actor was getting older anyway, so she started sounding more like, not an adult because she was only a teenager at the time, but still. And I don't like PUP, as you may know. I was really interested to see how much this character either grew on me or what, but I can say that he's remained exactly the same. I probably don't have as big hatred as him for him as I did back in 2021, but I still don't like him. He's very rude, he's annoying, and he can be a little nasty sometimes. And I just don't like him. Like, I think he really is a big reason why he ruined, like, the Pupstar movies gradually got worse. And he kind of ruined the best character of the movie, too. Tiny. And speaking of which, these characters are hardly even in this movie anyway. It's mostly just on either the villains, the adult, or the humans, I mean, or the pups. The new pups that, replaced Tiny. Great. That's totally what I came to watch Pupstar for. Replacement puppies for Tiny. I guess PUP is the least annoying in this movie of the three, but maybe that's just because he gets less screen time in this movie than the others, but I don't know. I still don't like PUP, and I still find him annoying. I don't know what Tiny sees in him, but whatever. So that happens. And then, of course, they have puppies, like I said. They are some of the most forgettable, boring puppies of all time. If you know me, I love myself some good old puppies. Whether if that's in real life, cartoon, animation, TV show, movie, whatever. I love puppies, and they usually do a really great job on different puppy characters. Look at Pup Academy. It's full of puppies. I love puppies, especially from that show. But for this in particular, not only are these four characters only in this one movie, so we don't get enough time to be able... I guess we get enough time because they do really focus on these characters. But for the first three movies, our main focus was on Tiny, who was, the main puppy, and what we were kind of, what I kind of thought we would see throughout most of these movies. Tiny was a great character. She was a fun character to get introduced to, and she's cute. But these four, not so much. And they kind of represent other Urban Entertainment puppies that come in four. If you remember Santa Paws 2, there was another group of four puppies, being Jingle, Charity, Hope, and Noble, which is also three girls and one boy. The only difference is that these four actually starred in the movie, and they were fun to watch. They were cute, and they had more fun personalities than these three. I couldn't tell you Charlie and Rosie's personality if you asked me, or even Brody to an extent too. But for like Charity, or for all those pups, I could tell you all their personalities. They were much more fun to follow than these four puppies. They're just forgettable, boring, and they're replacing a character who I liked way, way better than these four. So, yeah, the puppies don't really have much thing going for them either. Another thing I didn't like about this movie was you can tell they are running out of ideas when it comes to this movie. How did we go from a a puppy adventure with Tiny in the first movie to a Christmas special by the fourth movie. Like, you can tell the writers really are just throwing anything at the wall and seeing what will stick. And a Christmas special, because who doesn't love Christmas specials? They did many of these before. And both of them I really liked. Santa Buddies is a cute movie, and I liked Santa Paws 2 as well. I've never seen Santa Paws 1, unfortunately, but maybe someday. So why not do a Christmas special? It just seems like two different shows coming together all in one. The Santa Paws show or movie, as well as Pup Star, of course. So you can tell it's definitely the story just makes zero sense compared to a lot of the others. And it just seems kind of out of character for these Pup Star characters. Like, I thought Bark wanted to take over Pup Star. Why is he trying to like gain money for Christmas reasons now? I don't know. It just seems kind of random and like so far different than what we were used to. Also, the reindeer in this movie, and they are super annoying. I feel like the reindeer get just worse as the movies go on. They started off fine in Santa Buddies, then they were just something in Santa Paws 2, and now they're just annoying. Why are we getting focused on these boring reindeer characters? Give me Tiny, the movie that, should be focused on her. Also, this is the only movie to not have some sort of competition with the characters, which I always thought was kind of funky. And I do really like the judges. Lady Pawpaw, Dog Gnarly, and of course Simon Growl definitely steal the movie sometimes. But unfortunately, they're hardly even in this movie, because instead we have to be focused on those four very boring pups instead. Another thing worth noting is they changed Bark up for some reason. Okay. I do believe it's still the same breed. It's different. You can tell it's different. I don't know why, but okay. Another one, obviously, that is noteworthy is Eli's head elf, or Eli's dog, Eddie. He was a Jack Russell in the other movies, but now all of a sudden he's a corgi. I understand. The dog may no longer be with us, because this movie was filmed in 2018, or at least it was released in 2018, where the other ones were way back in the early 2010s. So who knows what could happen between then and there? But they could have easily just had another Jack Russell, and I think the film knows that they kind of screwed up with that too, because we see hardly any Eddie at all. So yeah, it's very random, but whatever. And that just comes to my main problem about this movie. It's boring. Like all the other movies, including the third one, there was some parts of it that I really enjoyed, or like most of the movie. But this movie, it just got so boring at times. If it wasn't Roland stealing the show, or of course Shep and Ida and their hilarious moments, then this movie just got dull. It was so boring, and the story just goes they just throw whatever at the wall, and it feels like just a worser Santa Paws 2, basically, and a definitely worser Pup Star movie, of course. And another thing that I noticed is that they hardly show Scrappy in this movie either. Why? Why? Why is she hardly in this movie? There's so much just whys about this movie. Why did it need to exist, for one? But I feel like if they would have, potentially stuck with something different, then it could have been much better. Instead of Tiny and PUP getting married, what about Tiny having a Christmas special? Wouldn't that be more interesting than them replacing her with these four very boring pups? Keep the human stories and the villain stories the same, but just retweak it a little bit. Don't make it seem quite as lazy as what it is. That's a problem with some of these Pup Star movies, is that they seem like they are kind of lazily made, and unfortunately this is definitely the biggest one for that. There's hardly anything that I do like about this movie, and a movie that's supposed to be focused on, dogs and pups, I would much rather watch I would rather watch anything else. The humans are more fun, the villains are more fun. Yeah, this movie stinks. And PUP's in it too, so that also stinks. Yeah, I still stand by this movie being the absolute worst of the Pup Star movies, and I think it will always be the worst of the Pup Star movies. With a few good things, but for the most part, it's a pretty below average, bad, annoying movie. So yeah, that's Pup Star Christmas. Let's move on to number 3, which is Pup Star World Tour. As I said before, all these movies are remaining exactly the same in their placement orders. None of them have changed in 5 years. But I want to give more of a different opinion on these movies than I did back then. I feel like I kind of rushed through them a little bit more, or just completely trash talked about some of them. Which, yeah, a lot of some of these movies, especially these earlier ones, aren't really that good, but they're not all bad and down. So this movie, for some reason, I was actually kind of, I was kind of excited to see it again. I haven't seen this movie since 2021. I haven't seen any part, not even clips of this movie since 2021. So I was kind of curious to see what my initial reaction would be about this movie. When way back in 2021, I hated this movie. I didn't like it, and in fact, it was almost worse than Puppy Star Christmas. But at least this movie does focus on, Tiny, who's our supposed main character, and she's a puppy this movie. Why make her an adult? Why change a character for the story instead of, they should have done it the opposite. Change the story for our character. Well, anyway, in this movie, Tiny is now a judge on Pupstar. Because, why not? We already have some random things being thrown at the wall. What if Tiny was a judge? Okay, it's not the worst idea ever. It's better than her being an adult, but it's once again just very random. But, okay. So her, along with the other judges, travel along to different worlds to host or judge different dogs in the competition. And one of them, of course, is Julio, who comes from Mexico. And he ends up being Tiny's chosen one for the golden bone thing, whatever you want to call it. So Tiny has to train, or Tiny and Julio have to now sing a song together, or Tiny has to train Julio, basically. All the other judges do pick different dogs as well that they have to train. So something that I do like about this movie already is we're getting a lot of screen time of the judges, and I love all the judges. And something else that ends up popping up is that this movie in particular, we get to see the judges' family, which is kind of funny. Lady Pawpaw's mom, Dog Gnarly's kids, and of course Simon Growl's grandfather, which is kind of funny. Now for the villains side, it's a very weird one in this movie. They're running a jail cell, which seems very random because, these are the villains. Don't you think the villains are the ones that are going to be thrown in jail? And how did they get a jail cell in the first place? I don't know. Maybe it's being run by villains. Whatever. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But this movie, once again, they're trying to get Bark back into Pupstar. But this time around, he's going to use Julio to lip sync the music, so it sounds like, so he can still be singing. But Julio's the one that's out there. Yeah, very weird, but whatever. But that's not even the weirdest part. Bark and Cano and the bad guys are trying to get Julio to hook up with Tiny. Did they not realize that Tiny is still a puppy in this movie? You see, that always rubbed me the wrong way. Because Tiny's supposed to be this young, cute puppy, and now all of a sudden by the third movie, they're trying to get her to go out on dates. Why? Why? All the meanwhile, we see PUP, who's in a little studio, and he's kind of suspicious of this Julio character who's now hanging out with Tiny. Why do you care? It's not like you're dating Tiny at all, and it's not like Julio should be either. But whatever. That's the way the story went this movie, so that's what we're gonna have to do. Unfortunately, they end up going to a restaurant together, Tiny and Julio, and Julio ends up planning a kiss on Tiny, which Shep accidentally takes a picture of. This is all over the place now, and PUP won't even speak to Tiny now. What a jerk. Tiny, are you sure this is the guy you want to marry in the fourth movie? Are you sure? I would almost rather you be with Julio. And I'm not the biggest fan of you, and I'm not a shipper of you or Julio either, but I'm definitely not a ship of Tiny and PUP, especially in this movie. I think this movie shows PUP at his worst. So anyway, Tiny's upset, of course. And then plot happens, where they go to the Pupstar finale, where we see which one of these few is going to win. It almost looks like it's going to be Julio, because the villains confront the judges and says that, hey, something might happen to your pups and your whatever loved ones if you don't vote for Julio. So they basically threaten the judges. Okay. But later on, PUP emerges into the scene and tells everyone about how Julio is just lip syncing and how he's a fake. So he ends up getting exposed, and Bart gets exposed as well. But meanwhile, Steven and Ida end up traveling to the jail cell to let all the family members out of jail, out of their little prison cells. Which, cool for them. It's always fun seeing these two characters together. It's fun seeing the humans together because they're at this point they really nailed the human characters, and they're really fun to watch. Ida in particular, I always liked, and she was always really hilarious. I also love how she has a thing for Julio in this movie. It's funny and it's hilarious. While I may not like the villains quite as much in this movie as in the fourth movie, I guess they're not terrible, but I still ain't gonna go out of my way to watch the villains in this movie. I'd still rather see Tiny, even though her character is basically changing at this point. Then the movie just ends. Yeah, it's a very strange movie for sure, and something that I do find kind of funny about this movie, that obviously I didn't know about at the time, was that this movie, which is the third installment, is called Popstar World Tour. What's the third season of Total Drama called? Total Drama World Tour. What a coincidence. But the only difference is I love the Total Drama World Tour. It was easily the best season, where this movie, it's only a bit better than the fourth movie, and that's about it. There is a lot of things noteworthy that I don't like about this movie. Yeah, there's a few great things. The humans, of course, are always great to watch, and I don't mind Julio as a character either. But I just think that they go a little too much on Julio in this movie, and they really force the relationship between Julio and Tiny, and it almost feels like they forced the relationship on Tiny and PUP as well. Who wanted to see these two together? I don't know. I know I didn't. I just thought it was very, very bizarre and random, but whatever. And PUP is throwing a hissy fit because Tiny is talking to this other boy dog named Julio. Okay, well, he thinks that there might be something going on, especially after he sees that thing about the kiss. And I remember Tiny said right afterwards that she's with PUP. Oh, what is that supposed to mean? Aren't you a puppy in this movie? Yeah, you see, the story just goes all over the place in ways that I just don't like. They get way too random with this movie, and it's not in a fun way. Sometimes, yeah, maybe, but why is Tiny, who is still a puppy in this movie, has like a bunch of big feelings for PUP? It's like she can't thrive without him. I really don't like this ship at all. It's easily one of the worst ships out of probably any show or movie that I've seen, just because they just don't work well together. I don't like them together, and I hate PUP as a character. Like I said, I would almost prefer Julio to be with Tiny, but I don't like that either. This movie is just like a big dating sim, and I don't like it at all. And like I said before, PUP is probably at his worst in this movie. As soon as he sees Tiny back from the airport with Julio, he immediately drops the flowers and leaves. Okay. That seems very random if you're going to eventually be her future husband. But whatever, you do you. And then eventually, there's many times where Tiny tries to call PUP. Or not many times. Well, I guess there is a few times. One of them, it's just a bunch of dogs who end up hanging up on her. The other time, it ends up being PUP himself because he doesn't feel like talking to Tiny. Because he sees the whole thing with Tiny and Julio kissing. Dude, just talk to her. And this one female dog comes in to try to comfort PUP, who's more around his age. And then people try to ship them together. Yeah, this is just a big ship movie. Why? Like I said, they're just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what will stick. It's not quite as ridiculous as Puppy Star Christmas. At least Tiny's our main character this time around, but boy is it annoying. And PUP in this movie, oh, this dude, I don't like him at all. I still don't like PUP. 5 years later, I can still say he is easily, without a doubt, the absolute worst character of Popstar. And he definitely is a big reason why I don't like this movie either. Because, man, he's just like, ugh. And Tiny, obviously being the nice puppy she is, cares about PUP, even if PUP is being an absolute jerk to her. Why, Tiny? Let PUP go. Don't worry about this annoying, unlikable character. Go be a puppy. Like, why are we doing this dating sim thing with a puppy? Like, it just seems so random, and I don't like the story where it's going for at all. And PUP is in a decent amount of this movie, too. It's not like Pupstar 4 where him and Tiny are hardly in it. No, he is in a decent amount of this. He's in a decent amount of this movie, so we get to see a lot of him. So for the people who like PUP, well, there you go. For the people who despise him like me, well, great, just great. So yeah, PUP definitely is one of those, probably one of the absolute most annoying TV show characters I've ever seen, and he definitely is, up there as a very unlikable character. I made this little thing about a week ago, where it was the characters I despise, where I put Dave from Total Drama, Jake from Disventure Camp, and of course, right in the middle is PUP from Pupstar. I only made this as a little joke on my shorts channel because I was doing mini triggerings on all the different movies. So I made this little characters I despise list and put PUP right in the middle. He fits perfectly in there. Now what's funny is that in this picture, originally I was also going to add Wiggles from Super Kitties, but I don't think I despise him. He may not be my favorite, I may not like him, but I don't despise Wiggles enough to put him in this character. Like, it has to be an absolute annoying character I hate, character that has like hardly any or no redeeming qualities at all. Like Dave from Pocket 2 Island, I hate him. Jake from Disventure Camp, I hate him. PUP from all the Pupstar movies, I hate him. Another thing that's annoying about this movie is the constant songs. The songs in this movie are just so bland. Like, all the three original Pupstar movies had their own little theme song. This movie was definitely up there as one of the weakest when it comes to the music. I did not like the theme song at all. It's one of those songs that do get stuck in my head. So, wonderful. Whatever. Yeah, that's Pupstar World Tour. I don't like it. It's only slightly better than Puppy Star Christmas, though, because it does do a few things right in regards, but man, this movie could have been so much better. It could have lived up to that World Tour theme like Total Drama. I guess it was kind of World Tour that they were going on, a World Tour, but this movie could have been so much better. Cut back on the dating sim, for one, and number two, cut back on PUP. I cannot stand this character. Alright, let's move on to number two, and a much better movie than this one, and that is Pupstar Better Together, aka the second movie, the sequel to the very first one, and man, this is actually a pretty good sequel. So, this movie focuses a lot on Tiny and her past, which I think is a great way to, have Tiny as the puppy, have a movie in this. Well, I don't even know what I'm talking about, but basically, I like the direction that they went with this movie, where we get to see more of Tiny's past. Where did she come from? Who's her mom? Does she have a twin sister? How did Steven end up finding her? Like, there's so many random questions that we end up seeing happen in this movie. So, this movie, of course, happens after the very first one. Tiny is all of a sudden a super, super popular character around the world from Pupstar. And it's definitely different for her. The villains in this movie are still out to get Tiny. You see, this is what I like. The villains were, okay, well, they might have been more boring in this movie, but at least, like, it's not like they're changing their goals and whatnot just because why the heck not? Yeah, Puppy Star Christmas is just so bleh. Anyway, they're still out to get Tiny, so they find another dog that looks like Tiny, who they don't even know is her sister, Scrappy, to help them in their little stealing adventures. So I guess it does kind of work, at first, because Scrappy, she doesn't really care much. So she's going to trade places with Tiny while they capture Tiny, I guess. So Scrappy ends up switching places with Tiny. So when Roland takes Tiny away, Scrappy is now having to live with Lou and Steven and Ida. And this is also the very first movie that we got Shep in as well. I don't know why he wasn't in the first movie, but okay. Unfortunately, though, this is probably the weakest movie when it comes to Shep, just because we don't really see much of him in it. But I don't really care because I'm here to see these cute puppies, not, the humans. But I guess I am here still to see the humans. Gotta have that good balance, if you know what I mean. Eventually, Scrappy feels bad for Tiny and ends up exposing all of the bad guys. So yeah, there you go. And Tiny ends up going back to Pupstar um, and saves the day. And there you go. There's your movie. There is lots of great things to be had in this movie. For one, once again, I do kind of, not really, but I do like Tiny's story in this movie with her backstory with her parents, or with her mom, and eventually, of course, her sister. And Scrappy's a pretty great character, too. And it's fun seeing her live the life of Tiny. And I like seeing the humans in this movie, too, the good guys, like Steven, Ida, Shep, Lou. They're all fun to watch in this movie, and it's fun seeing them have a great time with Scrappy, thinking that it's Tiny, but they still all have fun together. Also, out of all the movies, this movie's probably the least cringiest of the bunch, too, which is nice. Another thing that I really liked about this movie, and this is the only movie that does it, is the music. The music actually isn't half bad in this movie. Okay, well, I did like the song in Pupstar 4, the Let There Be Love song, because it's a catchy little gospel song. Everyone's dancing around, even if it just reminds me of Tiny and PUP getting married. It's not quite as horrible now as it was back then, but I hate that they did that, but I do like the music that they played. It's catchy. This music, the music in this movie is all about the funk. Like, it's a very funky type of movie, and it helps when they go to this one place. I forget what it's called. But they have, like, different rap battles and stuff at this place. So that's cool and all. And that made the music pretty catchy, too. Like, it's all funky in this movie. Like, even, 5 years later, before watching this movie, I still remembered most of the songs. I couldn't tell you any of the songs in the original movie or in World Tour or Puppy Star Christmas aside from that Let There Be Love song. But this movie, I did remember the songs. Like, I remember Tiny's theme song in this movie. It was actually kind of catchy for once. Well, I guess I shouldn't say catchy. It was better. It wasn't amazing, but, it was much better than the other movies. And, the other songs that they sing are pretty good, too. And it's not an overjoy of just, like, a whole bunch of just music that makes no sense. Like, it actually, was pretty good when it came to the music in this movie. And Tiny is still in her fun, cute puppy stage. So she's fun to watch, and it's fun seeing her curious side kind of pop out at times. Not quite as much as the original movie, of course, but it's still there. Plus, it's fun seeing Charlie and Emily Rose in this movie from the original, so I'm glad they brought them back. There's only one little thing that holds this back from being potentially the best movie of the bunch, and that, of course, is the one, the only, the worst character of Pupstar, PUP. Here he is in all of his glory. You can see him on the title and everything. Yeah, this is certainly a character. So they are already trying to push the dating sim with Tiny and PUP in this movie, which just kind of comes out of nowhere. And why from PUP? You could have chosen a much more likable character. But no, PUP. Wow. So Tiny is staying with them when she escapes the bad guy's headquarters. So she's staying with PUP and his two gang, which we don't ever see again, and they're only in this movie, and that's it. As time goes on, I guess both of them just kind of slowly get feelings for each other. What? This doesn't make any sense, because Tiny's even younger in this movie than she was in Pupstar 3. So, okay, this just comes out of nowhere, for sure. And really, PUP of all characters? Tiny? That just kind of... it just comes out of nowhere. I don't like it. And there's many scenes that really try to shoehorn in this weird relationship that they're trying to start. Yeah, the movie direction is heading in them getting eventually married by the fourth movie, which is a shame. But did we really need to get that in this movie already? Like, we'd have a Lady in the Tramp style where they're eating the pasta together. And then there's a scene, I always remember this, where they're sitting in the truck and there's a heart cut out. So... it could have been any shape in the world, but it was a heart. Then there was a scene on the boat too where they're kind of, getting a little funny with each other. It's just, well, why? Why does this need to exist? Like, it doesn't need to exist. And if it wasn't for PUP and the weird dating sim stuff that was starting in this movie already, this movie could have potentially been the best movie of the bunch. It's less cringier than the first movie, and the music is much better. Plus, it introduces some pretty good characters, like Scrappy, for example. That was the only good character, new character that they introduced. Um, and the characters that meet along the way in this movie are potentially less boring than the original, and the main characters themselves are much more fun in this movie than the original. Where the original, not only was Ida played by a different actor, but Shep wasn't even in the original movie, and the humans, I mean, they were fine and all, but they definitely weren't as fun in that movie as they were in all the other movies. But this one character is what pushes this movie down because he wasn't in the first movie, so that is what gives the movie a giant, giant head start and a big point. Whereas this movie, PUP is in this movie, and it unfortunately makes it a little bit worse than the original. So, other than this one character and the scene where he made Tiny cry because he calls her a fake, yeah, I'm happy with keeping him in that characters I despise list because he definitely deserves that. Yeah, he eventually comes back. I don't think he even apologizes. He just kind of comes back. So yeah, what a jerk. I don't like PUP at all. I still don't like PUP 5 years later, and I don't think I will ever like PUP. So he's a big reason why this movie loses a few points. But I will say overall, besides that one character, I do like what they were doing with this movie, and it could have been even better if they didn't have that one character that I didn't like. But yeah, overall, Pup Star Better Together is a great sequel to the original, and it could have potentially almost been the best, but it wasn't. So with that, let's get to my favorite movie of the bunch, which is still the original, Pup Star 1. It's so funny seeing how different this movie is compared to Puppy Star Christmas. They don't even seem like the same genre anymore. I guess they still are, but man, this movie is so different from the fourth one. It's crazy. The fourth one the fourth one is just a lazy collab with characters that just doesn't make sense. Where this movie actually feels like it's trying to start off its own thing, and I do really like it. So we start with this really cute puppy named Tiny. She's nervous to go on Pupstar because she's afraid that either the judges won't like her or she's just kind of nervous. But eventually she ends up singing really good and ends up getting the golden bone. However, there ends up being a little accident where Lou ends up running into the side of a car or something. So she's in the hospital where Tiny all of a sudden has ran away. That Roland has caught up to her, though. In this movie, Roland is a dog catcher. So I feel like this is the trope of Airbud Entertainment that the dog catchers have to be the bad guys. We've seen it in Santa Paws 2 before. Well, anyway, no, not Santa Paws 2. Santa Buddies. Who was the villain in Santa Paws 2? Everyone, I guess. Sure. Well, anyway, in this movie, Tiny ends up getting caught by Roland, and she ends up at the pound. She, of course, is very scared, but everyone there besides Charlie is a fan of Tiny because they notice her from Pupstar. Meanwhile, Charlie is digging a hole to escape the prison, which he ends up successfully doing, and Tiny ends up following him. So they end up going on a train together to get far away. Tiny and Lou sing their sad song together, and then they're at a different area. So they go through a whole bunch of different adventures to try to get Tiny back to get Tiny to the finale of Pupstar because Tiny thinks that Lou is no more. So the poor pup has to go through that through basically this whole movie. Meanwhile, the humans, they can't find Tiny at all because, she ran away. So they try to go after her. Like going to the pound and then finding out that when she was at the pound, they let all the dogs out and the three main dogs there end up going with them on their adventures. So they end up basically going to the same areas that Tiny does. And as time goes on, one dog ends up staying with one of the humans that they end up finding along the way. Also, each time that Tiny and Charlie run into um, one of those characters, and one of them ends up being Emily Rose, they end up singing a song with them. The songs range from mid to boring, and the one that they sing with Mr. Hot Air Balloon guy, I forget his name, that song is definitely something, for sure. But the one thing about that, and something that I didn't notice when I made this video 5 years ago, is the way that they made that dog play the bongos. He puts his one paw on the one, but how do we do it again, but make it look like he used his other paw? Well, we reversed the camera, because, no one will notice that we switched the camera around. Well, I guess I didn't until someone else pointed it out. And you can tell easily in the background that it's flipped to the other side, which is kind of goofy, but whatever. So yeah, there's a few cringy scenes here and there, but it's nothing too terrible or crazy. Roland and Kano are hot on their tail, and the humans are behind them then eventually. Eventually, I should say, by the end of the movie, they end up making their way back to Pupstar. Charlie at this point has warmed up to Tiny, but he doesn't like hearing about Pupstar because him and Bark, the main villain of the series, used to be in a band together, but Bark ended up stealing all of Charlie's songs. I love how this story just kind of slowly faded away as the movies went on. Like, you could tell they really just didn't care anymore. Which seems weird because this is my favorite movie of the bunch. Why is that the story we're not caring about? Anyway, Tiny, of course, still sad. Lou isn't there. Bark ends up kidnapping her again. But Charlie ends up showing up and gets Roland to get Tiny out. You see, this is what I like. This story doesn't have any of that weird dating stuff in it. And PUP's not in this movie. That is a big plus. And the fact that the story is kind of more the young kid, old grumpy guy road trip story. So kind of like Up, if you've seen the movie Up. Who hasn't seen the movie Up? It's a great movie. Kind of like that movie, but just worse because, it's Pupstar. It's good, but you can't get better than Up. Anyway, they eventually finally end up finding Tiny, the humans, when she's at, the grand finale. And, of course, Tiny and Lou give each other a big hug. It's a cute movie. Like, I do like this movie 5 years later. I still really like it. Yeah, there's some things that are questionable, like the villains are kind of bland. The humans are hardly seen at all in this movie, and they're definitely the least funniest and the least fun in this movie. Not bad, they're just, not quite as fun. But that's fine because I'm here to watch Tiny, not humans. Like, it kind of reminds me of the 101 Dalmatians series, where I'm more intrigued with watching Cruella de Vil than the pups themselves. That's kind of like how Pupstar 4 is, where I don't care about the pups anymore, or the dogs. I just want to see what shenanigans the hero humans and the villains come up to. This movie, though, almost seems like the opposite. I'm more intrigued with Tiny in this movie because she's so cute. And I like seeing the road trip thing between her and Charlie. And it's nice seeing Charlie, turn over a new leaf and go back to help Tiny out. Anyway, Bark ends up getting exposed. Him and Charlie have a singing duel. Charlie wins, of course, and they expose Bark, and, story goes from there. And another thing I didn't really like about this movie is the music. The music in this movie is probably the most slow and sappy out of all the other movies. I'm not the biggest fan of the slow type of music. If you remember me and my Mario Karts, I'm not the biggest fan of the slow music. And unfortunately, this movie has the most slow music. Yeah, it's the most saddest of the four movies, which is understandable why they would play slower music. But just like Tiny's song that she sings, it's just, eh. And then a lot of the other songs they sing are just so boring. Like, I skipped through some of those songs just because it's nothing to me. I don't care about these songs. I do like the judges in this movie, though. They're, of course, great as always. Lady Pawpaw, Dog Gnarly, and, of course, Simon Growl. Who could ever forget about him? overall, it's a cute movie, and I do like what it's going for. Yeah, a few little things here and there, but even 5 years later, there's things about this movie that, you know, it was fun to rewatch and stuff. Now, I will say I probably wasn't the most excited to watch. I think out of all the four movies, I was probably most excited to watch Pup Star Better Together, just because that one I remember liking, and I just didn't remember that movie quite as much. There's a lot more little details in that movie compared to this movie. This movie's a little more of a simpler when it comes on the story side, but that's not always a bad thing. Pup Star Better Together has some more little, like, I forgot all about that they did this backstory thing between Tiny, Scrappy, and, Tiny's mom. Like, I forgot all about that. There's certain things about that movie I completely forgot about, and same with World Tour, although I don't like World Tour. But there was still little things about World Tour that I was curious about as well. And yes, there was definitely things about this movie that I forgot all about. I forgot that they took all the dogs from the pound and they all end up finding humans and stuff. Just because it's been 5 years, it's not like I've skimmed the movies, since then. I haven't seen these since 2021. I have not seen these, so I was honestly kind of excited to get back in these movies a little bit and watch them again and see, what I liked or disliked about the movies. And while, yeah, my opinion still remained exactly the same when it comes to ranking these movies, it was still a fun time to rewatch them. And as of now, and probably as of forever, I consider Pup Star, the original one, the first one, to be my favorite of the few. And a lot of that has to do with PUP not being in this movie, but still. And with that, that was me re-ranking all four of the Pup Star movies. Yeah, they remained exactly the same, but I already said they were. It was a fun taking a trip down memory lane. It was, not gonna lie, some of these movies, especially the first three movies, are kind of nostalgic. Like, I liked 2021 as a year. And rewatching those movies brought back so many memories from 2021. Like, it's insane what just movies can do. But because I saw, those three movies and a few scenes from Pup Star 4 so many times back in 2021, it just brought back so many memories from, that year. And especially in that time period whenever I was watching those movies, which was summer of 2021. So it's crazy what a few movies can do for nostalgia reasons. And it was really fun to rewatch. Even the fourth one, I guess, fine. It was still fun to rewatch it just because I didn't remember much of the movie at all. It's still the worst of the bunch, though, and it's still stupid. But it was nice taking a trip down memory lane and rewatching these movies. It was fun. So yeah, speaking of which, I hope you guys enjoyed this remastered video that I did 5 years later from the original. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.